I don't know about where you are, but where I am in southeastern North Carolina, right on the coast in growing zone 8A, it has been hot, brutally hot with no relief all summer long. That heat really causes stress on the plants. So I envy some of these garden tours of other folks I see in different parts of the country. Maybe their evenings cool off, or maybe they're getting a lot of rain. I am not having either of those things here. I also envy the people who say that they are starting their fall planting, because I think, wait, I'm still in the middle of summer here. Typically, on average, our days have been in the 90s. Heat index could be into the hundreds, of course, and our evenings have been in the 80s. So barely any cool down at night and almost no rain. So with that in mind, my plants are suffering. I want to talk about heat stress and what it can do to plants, and I also want to show you some of the things I have that are thriving despite this oppressive weather. Different plants are going to react differently to the heat stress. Some of them you may see turning yellow, some plants may be burning under the sun, some of them may be wilting, or you'll notice some leaf curl, and other plants are going to just start dropping leaves. Maybe they're going to turn yellow and you're going to see them falling off. A lot of these plants will recover. But right now, they're almost in protection mode, trying to just shield themselves from this scorching sun and all the heat that they're enduring. So a leaf curl is sort of in protection, saying, hey, don't shine on me so much. It's almost putting our plants into like a summer dormancy. It's scary and it stinks, and we're not sure what to do about it. So let me offer a couple of things that you can do to help this. One of the things you can do for your plants is make sure that your flower beds are mulched. Keeping about 2 to 3 inches of mulch in those beds is going to help them to retain any water that they do get. And it's also going to help to regulate the temperature for those plants and what is underneath the ground there. Also, talking about retaining water, we do want to make sure we are watering regularly. That is one of the best things that we can do for our plants. We do want to water, but we don't want to fertilize. Fertilizing for them is not going to be the right thing to do at this time when they are under stress. Fertilizing them is going to want to promote new growth on them, and they're already so tired. So now is the time to not fertilize and just keep up with your watering. Another thing, because our plants are under stress, they are susceptible to things like insects and disease. Insects are, oh my gosh, like terrible. We all hate to deal with the insects. I know I have an aphid problem on my crepe myrtles, for example, right now. But if you do read any sort of pesticides or any kind of spray that you may be thinking about using, you'll notice that there is a temperature on there, a temperature suggestion where it says not to use this product if it's 90 degrees, for example. Spraying any kind of pesticide on your plant, as tempting as it is to try to get rid of the disease or the bugs that may be ailing them, the pesticide could make it even worse and could really burn your plants and just cause even more trouble. So try to stay away from that, stay away from the fertilizing. This Diplodenia is just absolutely awesome because it has stayed fully vibrant and rich in its color. This guy lived with me last year. I overwintered it and I wasn't exactly sure what was going to happen. We did have some leaf loss, and of course it was not blooming at all during the winter. Well, it came back with a vengeance this year. Every single time I pull into the driveway and I get to see this pouring out of this large pot here, I'm just so, oh my gosh, I don't know, taken over with happiness because the color, like I said, is so rich. So the Diplodenia is also a tropical style, so it is definitely not a perennial here for me, but because I'm able to overwinter it, maybe you could do that as well. This is going to be my new pot filler instead of petunias or something, which cannot take the sun and the heat that I have just in my entire yard. So I am loving this flower 100%, and it's loving me back. While we are over here at the Diplodenia, I really wanted to show you the snake plant that I have inside the pot with it. The snake plant has also lived with me for 2 years, and I have it right in the front of my house, which means we get full afternoon sun here. And you'd think, how is the snake plant doing that well with all of that direct sunlight? And the answer is, I don't know. I think of snake plants in a way like vampire skin. If they get too much direct sunlight on them, like you get all the like burns and shriveled skin. That's how I imagine a snake plant most of the time. But this one has absolutely just loved its life here. And you can see it has made so many babies in here that this pot is bursting at the seams. I need to actually take some of these snake plants out. That is one of the projects that I will do when the weather cools off a smidge so that I don't stress out the snake plants too much. But holy cow, this snake plant is just doing outstandingly in this heat. Blanket flowers. If you heard me talk about blanket flowers once, you've heard me talk about them 1,000 times. Blanket flowers are very prolific bloomers in my garden. Now, they also grow wild here. They do like sandy soil, and I live right on the coast. So it makes sense they like this climate. They definitely don't seem to mind this excessive heat either. Excessive heat and no rain. They're blooming very beautifully, don't need to fertilize them regularly anyway, so they just happen to look awesome even in the situation that we're given right now. The pretty poppers Dianthus right here has been an amazing performer. The Dianthus started blooming back in March or April, so in the very early spring, and it has just continued to pop out blooms for the entire growing season. So it doesn't care if it's been hot or not. The Dianthus, this one is hardy to negative 30 degrees. It likes full sun. And as I said, we have lots of new buds. We have plenty of blooms already. The Dianthus is awesome. Something else that's putting on a show for me are Canna Lilies like these, or cannas like these. Canna Lilies are a tropical vibe flower. These ones in particular are hardy to zone 7. A lot of cannas are hardy to zone 8. They happen to be perennial for me, but they are all in different states of bloom, and that's just what they keep doing. Tossing up another flower, this one gets done. Tossing up another one, this one gets done. So the Canna Lilies are also great performers for me in this wretched heat. This Lantana is an absolute showstopper and has been putting on an amazing show. It is still attracting its pollinators like crazy. The blooms keep coming. It is growing in size. So this has just been absolutely amazing in these weather conditions. I'm going to include this hibiscus in this as well, because this hibiscus, it is on my front porch, so it's a little more shaded, which is great because it has more relief than some of my others that are planted right into the ground. It has been blooming nonstop also. We have lots and lots and lots of buds everywhere that are in different stages of getting ready to bloom. So this hibiscus has also done wonderfully. I understand, tropical vibe plant as well, but just saying, it is in a pot and it's still loving its life. Overall, my coneflowers are also doing well, but I have to admit that I have had some issues with disease on them, and so they weren't looking so good for a little while. But now my double scoop echinacea, this is the bubblegum, and I have the raspberry starting to rebloom here. These guys are going through their second flushes, so some of the colors still look pretty vibrant on them on the newer blooms. But as I said, we did go through a period where things were not looking so great. So these are known to be heat tolerant plants. Nevertheless, I think the heat was just a bit too brutal, and fighting off disease at the same time we're dealing with all that heat stress just wasn't so great for them. I'd like to give a shout out to the Russian sage. I transplanted this exact plant from my mom's garden in August. Now, typically, newly transplanted plants or things that are not fully established are more susceptible to any kind of insects, disease, any kind of stress. In this case, even the heat would do it to other plants. We had some minor leaf loss initially when I put it in the ground, and that's normal. That's just a bit of shock coming out of her ground, bringing it to a brand new area and planting it here. But all of this foliage is brand new growth. Everything's looking amazing. So Russian sage, awesome, heat tolerance, and also as a newly established plant. So all things considered, I think we're faring okay, but like I said, I still have some garden envy for the people that are getting cooler evenings or more rainfall so that their gardens are much more lush than mine. Hopefully we start to see a weather change in the next week or so, where at least our evenings are cooling off more so that my plants can have some relief. In the meanwhile, keeping up with the watering, and we're doing the best we can. Hope this video helped you in some sort of way. Thank you for watching as always, and happy planting.